it's really a pleasure to introduce Els to you. I met Els through LinkedIn, and I thought she had a really cool travel background and story as well. So, yeah, just wanted to welcome her onto the show. She has a company called Sam.ai. We will dive a little bit deeper into it as well. So, yeah, thank you so much, Els, for taking time to chat with us. We're really excited to have you on our podcast.
Yeah, welcome. Always to help early stage startups. So let's go.
No, that's awesome. So, just wanted to learn a little bit more about you because I was taking a look at your background as well. You've had a very interesting transition into now currently helping startups. So, what does your professional journey kind of look like? Of transitioning from a corporate role to coming to this space right now.
Yeah, it's I came from a farm which was very innovative. So compared to other farms, they did everything new, and that was something that I loved, the innovation. And I always said I want to have my own company, and that's what I always try to pursue somehow. So it wasn't really an accident being a startup founder or being in startups, but I learned the traditional way in my education, and part by part, I learned parts about sales, about IT, and then learned in the meantime a lot about that you can actually do it differently. Instead of writing business plans, you can just bit by bit figuring things out until your startup works. And that was for me like the light bulb moment where I was like, wow, why didn't I know this? And I want to know everything about it. So I got obsessed with that in 2016 and became my rabbit hole. So instead of building a startup, I just wanted to learn more and more. So yeah, since then I did that. And so I ran into consulting where I was more corporate. And for 3 years, I ran some really cool projects. And then I thought, okay, the only thing missing now is the environmental impact, or like the doing good for the world, basically, because it was great what we were building, just not that added value to the world, I felt. So that was for me, okay, with AI, it's now finally possible to bring these best practices to people who are sitting on their attics with their best ideas ever, trying to figure things out. And meanwhile, I'm for way too much money at other companies helping them doing those steps. And I
Right.
felt like, okay, I want to be at those, like at the ones who are really doing groundbreaking stuff. So yeah, I decided to figure out how I can help those early stage startups, and landed up with Sam.
No, that's really cool, honestly. And I was taking a look at your platform right before this call as well, and a lot of it is also personally helpful to me as well. And I'm sure I'm gonna interact with the platform more as well as we proceed further with it.
Our video sponsor for today is Hostelmatch. Hostelmatch is a hostel aggregator platform that helps backpackers find the best hostels across the world. Based on the vibe of the hostel, all you need to do is go to hostelmatch.com, select the country you're going to and the city you want to travel to. Select the kind of traveler you are. So if you're traveling alone, select solo traveler and the vibe that you're going for, and input the dates, and their matchmaker feature will match you to the hostels that match your preferences. And then you can dive deeper into details about the hostel, like the activities that are offered by the hostel, get high resolution pictures, and also compare prices between different booking providers.
So that's very interesting. One of the areas that I wanted to talk about was you touched upon, your husband and you were looking into kind of the research behind it. And I know the story about how you met your husband as well. But I'd love to jump a little bit deeper into, maybe some of your travel experiences of how you went out traveling. You mentioned that you did a 14-day trip as a solo travel trip, or like I believe you went with a friend. So would love to learn a little bit more about like what that experience was like, how you kind of ventured into the traveling side of things as well.
That was really my first trip, so I feel really old because this is more than 11 years ago. So,
Right, right.
yeah, so that was a moment that I thought like I never did this, and I feel like it's an opportunity. I live on my own, and so I wanted to travel. And New Zealand, people always said like it's the world in small, and yeah, I wanted to get away, and I felt like okay, that seems away, right? So, yeah, I knew some hotspots where I wanted to go, and I had like 1 to 2 months. So I thought, okay, I'll go around that. And I had a friend who wanted to do Australia first and then New Zealand, but I had a really great job actually, and I was like, I don't want to stay that long away. So
Right.
I just wanted the trip. That was kind of the idea, and so I decided to go 2 weeks for myself to New Zealand. She was for 2 months in Australia. And then on the northern island I went, and then together we met up on the southern island and did with a camper van together. So I really went 2 weeks on my own, which at first thought like, it's just 2 weeks. But when the airplane landed, I like got scared. I'm like, what am I doing? I don't even know where I have to go. And it was all like stress full on. And I loved it way more than I expected. So really like at the end of the 14 days, I felt like, how am I going to tell my friend that I kind of don't want to travel with her anymore? Like, I really like you, but I loved it. It was really, it was so much fun to meet locals, other travelers, and it's also like it was super budget the way I did it. It was kind of sketchy also sometimes, but yeah, I really love those experiences. And I was like, you don't do this in your hometown even, but when you're there, you're so open. And I think New Zealand is the best place ever to do something like that. I remember on the first day having my map open like a proper tourist, and somebody walking up to me asking like, where are you going? And I was like, what do you want from me? And he was just like, yeah, I'm living here and I'm trying to help out. And from that moment on, I was like, wow, okay, this like you are you genuine? Like you just wanted to help me because you saw me looking at a map. So New Zealand is like it's really safe, it's really, really nice and beautiful, beautiful place to travel.
No, that's awesome. And like, what prompted you to kind of go on that trip? Because New Zealand is in one corner of the world. So if you're making a trip down there, like, it really is like you got to have some conviction to really go out in New Zealand.
Yeah, I think it was really the scenery. So I've seen nice mountains. Mostly we went to France, and I wanted to do something completely different. And it was just something that I heard of. It wasn't like I had that or Alaska. That was like
Oh,
my
wow.
two
It's
places.
like two
And my
very
parents
opposite sides of the world.
and my parents were like, maybe not go on your own to Alaska with the bear and everything. So I was like, okay, yeah, I guess this is more safe.
Right.
So yeah, and it wasn't really, I met a lot of people who were like soul searching, didn't know what they wanted in life. And I was like, I really want to get back to work. I love it here. So I had a different mindset, I guess, to really have like an awesome holiday instead of learning a lot about myself. But in the end, I did. It was just not my goal beforehand.
Right, right. No, that absolutely makes sense. And you also touched upon or upon the camper van lifestyle. What was that experience like? Because a lot of us in today's day and age, like a lot of us do budget traveling, but we live in hostels. Like a lot of us haven't experienced that camper van lifestyle. So we'd love to learn more about like what that was like and how that kind of aided the entire trip around it.
Camper van is like, that sounds nice, and it's actually more like a station car with like
Right.
a bed in the back. I went with my friends. We're from the Netherlands, so she's quite tall, and we decided after 2 days that we're going to sleep head to toe because it didn't fit with our shoulders next to each other. So it was really like, yeah, that kind of idea. But yeah, it was really, really nice. I actually did it once more for 2 months with my husband in the USA. So there we did also a 2 month trip.
Right.
So yeah, I really love it. It's nice to have your house with you, so you can like stop anywhere, start anywhere, and those are places where you can also you don't need a camping. So it
Right.
totally changes your itinerary. Like it's getting late, it's getting dark. You're like, okay, maybe we have food here. We drive another 50 kilometers, and then we stop. It feels more free, and you can stay wherever you want. Basically, there are a lot of spots, but still it takes some organizing. Like you need to have those spots are on a certain location, and then it's the middle of the night. It's like, is it this road or that one? So you always still have those like strange moments that you're like, what are we doing? Like, is it in front of the cactus or after? It's like, I don't know where we are. So yeah, it's but it felt more, it felt really free that you don't have to book up. You go, there's no in check, there's no out check. It's
Right.
just
Right.
there's no place. So yeah, I really liked it. It's just you do a lot of driving. So even a month in New Zealand was a lot of driving. So when people go shorter than that, I'm really thinking like, oh no, you should get out of the car. That's kind of the point of being in a beautiful country
Right,
like
right,
that. So yeah, so that's I think the disadvantage that with when you're backpacking, you take the bus, which is already like you're meeting other people, or you sleep somewhere and you're meeting other people, and with your camper van, you're really on your own. So we
right.
both had like solo travels, and then we got together in the camper van, and after a few days, we said like, we need other people. I'm sorry, but like other people than you, because New Zealand there are not many people, and then once you're on a camper van ground, everyone is still in their own places. So those are things that we missed, like having that community. And just as soon as there were people, we were like, okay, we're going to ask them if we can sit with them to eat, just to, like yeah, see a bit of other faces again. So it's always advantages, disadvantages, I guess.
No, that makes sense. And then you also mentioned you went with your husband to the US, and US being such a big country, I'm sure like that was even more kind of heightened in that experience because you're just going from one place to the other, long distances between cities as well. So no, I completely get your point. Coming back to my initial statement I'd made, like, you said that you met your partner through one of your trips. So would love to dive a little bit deeper into that story and just understand how did that happen? And how has kind of travel in a way, led you to finding the true love of your life?
When I left, I remember my boss saying as a joke, like, I don't meet anyone there. It's so far away. Like, what would you want to do, right? So I was like, no, why would I? But yeah, apparently after a few days traveling, I ended up in a hostel, and then there were other people. So I saw them, but yeah, was unpacking and stuff. And then I was just walking around in a park, and I saw two people having really a lot of fun. And I thought, okay, those people were, I think, from my hostel. So I was like, hey, you guys are staying in the same hostel as me, right? And that's how we kind of got talking and just had a really nice afternoon. And it's so easy, right? Like that's the first connection is just like
Right.
we're in the same place, which like everyone has their own room, but somehow you're connected. You both know that you don't live there, you have maybe some similar experience. And he was actually he's German, and he worked and travel. He did that a lot in Australia for half a year, and then he was there. So I was like, oh, nice guy. So I asked him, yeah, when do you go back to Germany? He was like, Germany never. I was like, oh, okay. Europe? I don't know yet. It's like, oh, okay. First Thailand, and then I see, and I thought like, oh man, why do you like a guy like this? So it wasn't like love at first sight. It was really like, okay, that's not a match at all. But we had really like nice talks and everything. And in the last evening when we sat together with four people, I asked like, should we all exchange phone number? And one girl said like, the two of you, or you also want my number? So I didn't dare to ask, so I got everyone's number.
But you only messaged the one
I
person.
only wanted one. Yeah, so that was kind of nice, but it was still like, okay, yeah, are you going to keep up? You never know, right? If you're going to be texting, you're also on the trip and you don't have foreseeable anywhere. But I left my Bible, so
Oh,
I don't know if
wow.
you know it, but the
I
Lonely
do know
Planet of New
Lonely.
Zealand.
Yeah.
And in it was 2012, so you couldn't do anything without your Lonely Planet. It says everything, like how you travel, where you sleep, like where you should eat. It's just everything, and it was the only thing. I had a smartphone, I think, but it was like, so I lost it there. So I left it, my parents say, by not by accident, but yes, I left it by accident because I was calling in the night, and then my name is in it and my phone number. So my now husband found it and said, hey, it's yours, shall I ship it to you? Which was funny because every day I was somewhere else, so he was trying to locate like what my next move would be, and if he could ship it there. And every time we were in contact, I was like, oh no, that's not handy. I just went past there and I don't know if I go there anymore. So we
Right.
kept in touch because he tried to like ship it to me. So it was our reason to stay in touch, which worked really well because we kept on catching up like, oh, so you're there now, what are you doing? So yeah, that was really fun. And in the end, he shipped it. I found it, and yeah, we had a good reason to keep on talking. And then he kept on traveling. I went back to work, and for almost a year, it was like a ping every once in 3 months, like, how are you and where are you? And then he moved back to Switzerland and thought like, okay, I'm going to live here for a while. So I thought, oh, Switzerland, that's closer. It's not close. It's
Agreed.
closer,
Agreed.
but it's not close. So yeah, from that point on, we dated. He was one day in Amsterdam, where we met up with other friends, and then I went a week to his house, which was our
Right.
date too, which was quite of like, I needed a break, and he was a really nice guy, so I thought, why not? It was always fun. So yeah, at the end of the trip, it was still like nice, and yeah, from there on, it started growing, and yeah, I thought, oh, I'm maybe in love, and now he's like, I don't know, it was 12 hours by train. So
Wow.
then we started long distancing for almost 2 years, from Switzerland to the Netherlands. So it still did a lot of traveling. He went back here, and we did some really nice trips. And when I was there, of course, as well. So it really sparked a lot of adventures, not living next door.
No, that's actually such an interesting story to me. And I don't know if I've told you this before, but my brother and his wife also met at a hostel while they were traveling in New York. So when you kind of mentioned this story, it really hit home with me because in my head, it was like a full circle, like my brother has seen it. And now you were mentioning that you met your husband, and this entire experience of just traveling, trying to like understand who you are. But once you start to do that, you also unravel things that you like in other people that you want in a long-term partner. And I'm so happy to hear that you found that. And despite these long distance uh train rides and relationships that you kind of kept on having for a little bit, like it really worked out. So it's fantastic to hear that.
Oh, you're so open-minded when you're traveling, or you're there to learn. You're curious about people, they're curious about you, and that makes it also that you're so interested. I think when I wrote down what I wanted in a husband, I think there are not many things he takes, because I wanted somebody who's like me, I thought, and he's nothing like me, which is way better. So that's also like, you're more receptive to whatever is new. And I think when
Right.
you're maybe in your home place or doing your job, that can be super disruptive to have somebody who's thinking completely different or having other hobbies. And there it was like, wow, I never thought of doing that. Yeah, let's do that. Why not? So it's sparking really a lot. And I think in the end, for us, it really works to counterbalance each other when you're so different. So
Right.
I'm super rational. I'm very disciplined, and he is way more grounded and way more in touch with his feelings, which is good to, instead of like push, say head up, look around, like, oh yeah, right, okay, we're here now. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, it's really nice, and I think that helps to have that travel mindset and to
Right.
be open. Yeah.
No, that's absolutely right. And so many things that you mentioned echo so much with me because even for myself, like I was a huge introvert back in the day. So I started traveling to kind of get out of my comfort zone. And that I think has really helped me shape myself into just being open about things like, experiences, life, things that happen. Like you start to seek discomfort, which is again something that Yes Theory, if you're familiar with them, I'm a huge fan of Yes Theory. So they kind of embrace as well. So I completely get your point in regards to that. So in today's day and age, like another segue into what I wanted to kind of ask you was in today's day and age, obviously like dating is very different from what it was some time back, right? And even when you meet people at hostels, it's not as easy to like, blossom it into a long-term relationship. So is there any advice that you might have for people who are going in with the right intentions of finding the right partner, how should you approach this? Should you just let it go naturally, or like, you leave a book behind with your name and phone number on it?
Not your Lonely Planet, at least something else. Yeah. No, yeah, I think well, I think it's personal to everyone. I really don't like those undefined relationships, which already like 11 years ago was also a thing, right? Like, no, we're not in a relationship, we're just hanging out. I hate that. I'm full in or I'm not, kind of. So
Right.
that was for me like from the beginning when we were like, okay, we want to see each other, we want to see each other again, and I like, okay, are we together or not? Like, what are we? And he was like, we already are. Like, oh really? Like, what date? Since when? So
Like, this
well,
is a key point you forgot to ask me.
exactly. So 1.5 months later, I heard that we were in a relationship for a while. So yeah, but from me, that's really important. Like I really don't understand why you want to play around. Why would you want to have other people next to it when you just found somebody who's awesome? So yeah, I think that's for me something that I would say like that works for me. Just be super open about it. Like
Right.
I was ready for a relationship, but it didn't have to be. So there was no pressure. I didn't feel like when I would be 30, I would feel like, oh, I kind of want to have my family. And then I was 23 and I felt like, it's fun. I like you. So let's see where it goes. But I also want to be like serious. If you're like, I don't know, then this is not the right, then I go to somewhere else. So that's for me important. And I think when we decided, like, okay, we want to get to know each other, it's kind of weird, but this long distance was really healthy for a relationship because instead of doing fun stuff, which is usually one of my love languages, the only thing we had was talking. So you learn
Right.
so much about each other because you just sit in front of the screen and ask each other questions like, how do you do that? How's your family? How do you bring that up? Where did you live? Like, it, and I think when he would sit next to me, it's so much easier to grab a movie, do something fun, go to the beach. I don't know, So I really noticed like we got to know each other on such deep level that we also knew better like what kind of a relationship we were in. So that made it way more serious somehow instead, despite the fact that we're so far apart, because yeah, the only thing you have is talking. So I think that was for me weirdly like something really interesting. And I think the other thing is that the bar gets set so high on what your partner should all be. And if you hold that against me, I also would feel like super insecure. So I think that's a really strange thing that we all do. And then yeah, in the beginning, I felt like, oh, he's super nice, and blonde blue eyes is always what I felt for, and that was totally him.
Right.
But then you also discover after a while, like things that don't match that well with you. But that's not a reason to break up. And then you notice, like, if those were the first three things he would have said on date one, we wouldn't be here, which is kind of weird because it's just an order thing, right? It's just
Correct.
life is everyone's super complex. Some things you will like about them and some less. So it should be more about what do you find important in life, and do we feel like we can do fun things together, similarities, learn from each other, do you make me better, like stuff like that. So I think that's also kind of weird that in advance your bar is totally different. You feel like you're looking for something else. I think if I would have written my dating profile, he wouldn't even come by, So it's like he wouldn't match to me and I wouldn't match to him. But somehow, yeah, it works. So that makes it somehow, I think, also complex. But yeah, I would say don't give up too quickly. Like, oh, that's one thing. Like, okay, that music you like, I never. So bye. And yeah, that's just not fair to hold somebody that they have to like and love everything that you do. It's just about being respectful to each other and understanding and being curious.
Absolutely. And I think you've hit the nail on its head, because sometimes the universe does things in such a unique way and you don't expect it. But when it happens, it just is such a beautiful story that's kind of tied in together at the end of the day. And then things just start to make sense when they start to make sense. So I completely understand what you're trying to kind of say about that as well, right? And in terms of an interesting question I had as well was, what is kind of your next travel destination of choice? Is it still going to be backpacking, or are you past your backpacking
Mm.
days and you're just like, that is something that is gone?
So actually tomorrow evening we go.
What?
Yeah, we go with sleep train to Austria.
Wow.
Yeah, different traveling now. So we have a daughter, 2 year old. She likes to walk, but 1 kilometer is far enough. So it's
Right,
a
right.
different kind of travel, but we're still like making ourselves ready to go hiking. So you just adapt, but still do the same thing. So that's something that we really love doing. So we have a hiking backpack where the kid can go like on the top.
Oh, that is beautiful.
And she loves it. She's already like crawling in. She wants to go to kindergarten in this thing, and so she's obsessed already with it. So we hope that she loves the mountains as well. So yeah, no, not hostels. No, it's you need your family space and way too many variables with the kids. When she was younger, even more so. So yeah, have we left it behind? I think differently. Like bunk beds we still do, but then it's like the hut to hut walks, like you know those
Ah,
mountain things.
the
So
family ones.
yeah, that doesn't really matter. So
Yeah,
I think now with the girl, she's still a bit young, but we're thinking maybe the next trip or later to do that.
right.
And then we're totally okay with like being in bunk beds with 20 other people in the same room. Like that's still fine because you really like hike mountain peaks and yeah, so that's something that we still want to do. But I think hostels are kind of gone for us. I don't think that's super nice with a family. I
Right,
don't know. It's
right.
just you need more time with each other, and you meet other people through her now. So she's playing out their other kids, and yeah, that's we're now the parents.
No,
So
that
yeah,
completely
it's
makes sense. I'm actually going to Panama next week, and I'm going with my niece. She is 4 years old, so I'm so
I
excited about that. It's going to be one interesting trip. So I kind of understand somewhat of what you're talking about. So that's really cool. I think it's a really interesting life story that you've had, like starting your company now, uh, and then finding your partner and now having a daughter with your partner based on the travel experiences that you've done. So just wanted to kind of thank you for personally sharing it with me, sharing it with everyone else that would be listening on this podcast as well. And overall, it was a pleasure having you on the podcast. And for any of those online who are looking to start a startup, please do look at Sam.ai. It's a fantastic. Oh, sorry,
with Sam.ai. Yeah.
with Sam.ai. So it's a fantastic platform for anyone who wants any sort of help building a startup or reach out to Els directly. I'm sure she'd be happy to kind of take you through the platform and like show you around as well. So yeah, just wanted to thank you personally for your time as well, Els.
A lot more people in hostels. I always try to push people, say like you should go at least once, you know, even if you hate it, then you know you hate it. But most people come back and say like, oh wow, that was like the most awesome thing. Even recently, my old colleague came back to me and said like, I did it. I went to, I don't know, somewhere in Asia and he loved it. So yeah, I think it's an experience that you can't miss out of. So happy to be part of your startup's journey and yeah, hope that you can get a lot more people enthusiastic about this way of traveling.
No, thank you so much, Els, and we appreciate your time heavily. Appreciate everything. Thank you. Thank you. Hope you have a good day. Bye.
Bye.